Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev, another exciting episode, hopefully exciting, with me, DJ Q Macro. I'm here this morning. It's not as cold as it has been here in Macclesfield, but there we go. So I see Volker is lying in bed with a cold. Gute Besserung, Volker, to you. Good morning to you, AP in Dusseldorf, and good morning as well to Lawrence, who is in Amersfoort, writing some rap and listening to Cap. What a beautiful balance. So yeah, we got part 3 today, the final part of this little mini series that we're doing on Cap Node.js plugins. Good afternoon, Ajay, friend and colleague from over the seas. Fantastic to have you here, Ajay. Ajay is another one of my developer advocate colleagues who's also very talented in many areas, including Cap. And Rudolph, good morning to you in Waterford Island. And Rainer, good morning to you too as well. I'm very excited to be here. I'll tell you something, it's really weird doing these sort of series where I say, yeah, we'll do a 3-part series, for example, and we'll do this part doing this, and this part doing this, and this part doing this. Good morning to you, Helmut. Good morning to you in Braunschweig, Brunswick, Germany. It's quite I sort of make a rod for my own back when I do that, because of course it means that I've got to make sure I complete the topic that I said I'd cover in part 2 or part 3 in that part. Otherwise, I've completely messed up the series. Talking of that, let me jump to the main scene. There we go. I think that's right, isn't it? Yes, there we go. Perfect. The main scene, and we've got this series post. I've just put the URL in the chat. Victor, good morning. I've got my little Chrome Pixelbook, Google Pixelbook down here. So good morning to you, Victor. I'm glad to have you on board. What we're looking at right now is the little sort of summary post. So we are here. You are here, 17th of Jan. This is the URL or the stream ID or the YouTube video ID for both the live stream and the recording, as you know. And I'm going to write up this. Well, I've already started writing up some of the details here. Anyway, where we left off last time was in part 2, where we're using the REPL. So let me know in the chat. Good morning, Transistor. One of my favourite YouTube names, that's brilliant. Where we left off last time, and go right to the bottom here, we had this thing called loud elements. We have this function that we defined, constant, which accepted or expected an entity and then produced a little map or a little object. Let's call it an object because, let's just be nice to each other. It produced a little object with the name of that entity, the actual whole entity object itself, sort of reproducing itself as it were, because we're going to be needing that when we're in this part actually, and then a list of elements that are annotated with our @loud annotation. Okay, and we just spit out the name. So that we applied to the entities in our service, right? In fact, we've got here, there's our service. Let's remind ourselves. And we've got the books entity within the service and the things entity within the service. Now, to make it a little bit more interesting, what I thought we should do, because I think what we did, in fact, I've got it here as well, haven't I? What we did as well, where is it? Let me scroll. Here we go, digging deeper into the bookshop service. So when we were sort of noodling around in the REPL last week, good morning, Mike. Mike Zashka in the house. Good morning. Great to have you, Mike. When we were noodling around in the REPL last week, we grabbed from this CDS. In fact, let's do it. CDS REPL. Let's run the actual thing here. Remember that? That's in the documentation. That's in the blog post as well. We said, let's just jump back here. Look, we did this, right? We did this destructuring. Now, obviously, we've got it already here. In fact, let me do that again without the running. And then what we did was await test. We started the whole service up with test. Can you see back? Let me know if my head is in the way. Maybe I should put it at the top, actually. Yeah, I'll put it at the top. You know, who knows? And I'll move that across here as well, maybe. Ooh, yes, there we go. And we did that, didn't we? Bang. Bookshop equals that. So that there, as you hopefully remember, if you were there last week and saw the replay, that's destructuring. And we pulled out explicitly and specifically the bookshop object from within CDS services, which, as we know, is this linked definitions iterable. Okay, so that you can destructure an iterable and pull a value out. But that got me thinking when I was writing this up that actually, to make it a little bit more interesting, rather than just talk about the service bookshop, we might want our plugin to process any service it finds. So I think it would be a good idea to start by just adding another service here, right? Just a random service, and we'll do something in a minute like that, right? And we'll add another service with an entity in it, so that we can sort of start to think about doing this properly, quote unquote properly, where we've got multiple services and multiple entities within those services. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking to them about the sky and blue, and I don't know why, I'll never forget this. Plato, or rather, Socrates as well, but there's this idea of this Platonic form, which is this sort of collection of properties. I don't know why I'm putting my arms up. They're sort of floating around up there. A collection of properties from which things in the real world take, right? So, for example, there's a property of blueness, and then the sky takes of that property blue. Anyway, DJ, stop rambling. Platonic forms, right? So there are different Platonic forms, one of which is colours. I'm going to spell it the English way, obviously. Not UK English way. Key, ID, integer, and what we'll have, name, string. Right, string format there. Right, and also, of course, we'll annotate that with loud. Okay, so we've got this random entity. Let me know what you think about this this Platonic forms, and anybody else sort of delved into the concept of Platonic forms. It's a beautiful thing. I studied Latin, ancient Greek, and ancient history and Sanskrit at university, and read a lot of Plato, Plato is a really nice style of ancient Greek to read, because it's quite sort of, I don't want to say pedestrian, but it's nice. It's nice. It's sort of quite simple and straightforward and down the line. Anyway, DJ, what are you talking about? I'll add some. Let me go across to here, and let's say we'll add some data. Cat into data. Bookshop dot. I've got a bookshop dot books there. Yeah, I'll just one thing, right? So we'll say things.csv. In fact, why don't we do this? CDS add. I know it's going to put it in a different directory, but anyway, CDS add data. There we go. DB data. See, I don't want them in there. I want them in. I want them in there in data. So I'll just bring those things and Platonic forms into there. Move what? Yes, hello, and then get rid of that one. There we go. So let's just get rid of that ID things. Oh yeah, yeah, that'll do. Bash rmrf db. Yes, there we go. Get rid of that. Okay, so now data bookshop things. It's a really weird way of doing things. Anyway, 1, 2, 3. That'll do. Fine. And then we'll also have Platonic forms dot colors ID 1, I don't know, red, 2 green, 3 blue. That'll do. Right. Okay. So Volker says, platonic is my relationship with Cap Java. Ooh, very nicely said. Very nicely said there, Volker. Yes, from your sick bed. That's a very astute observation or comment, generally. So now we've got two services, and we've got the genre element in the books entity in the bookshop service, and we've got the name element in the colors entity in the platonic form service as things that we need to do something with. Okay, so if we say, and in fact CDS REPL, and we'll run that thing there, we can see here, I'm not going to go, I don't want to go into why that's not showing anything. There's something quite interesting about the intersection of where you have a non-namespace entity inside a service. It actually then becomes a dotted name, so bookshops.books, so it can't sort of resolve into a global REPL variable right now. So they're talking in the team as to what they want to do in those contexts. But anyway, we can see here that we've got our bookshops service, our platonic forms service, and our DB service as well, which we know is, as I think I wrote about that in the documentation as well. Anyway, in the write-up as well, which we know is the database service. So actually, while we're in the REPL, we don't want to spend much time in the REPL today, but while we're in the REPL, why don't we figure out a way of identifying our services, the application services. Remember, there was, in fact, I think in here, app service. There we go. Look, kind app service inspect. In fact, let's do it. Let's do it. JFDI.inspect at depth. What is it? Bookshop, for example. Kind. There we go. Kind app service. And we do the same thing for DB. I'll put my head at the top, actually. Oh, it is at the top. DB, we get kind SQLite, right? So if we were to, and this is the way my brain thinks, if we were to define, see, using const in a REPL is sort of like a brave thing to do, just in case, you know, if I want to redefine it in that same REPL session, I'm stuffed basically. Yeah, let's do that. Is app service equals, I don't know, people, Javier, good morning. Good morning to you in Barcelona, Spain. Let me know in the chat as well what style of JavaScript you like. I'm very much a functional oriented sort of person, and I do like to write sort of small utility functions. So I'm going to say is app service, and again, the naming convention with the is in lowercase at the start sort of signifies to me that it's going to be a predicate function, i.e. return a Boolean, true or false. I think in other languages, I was reading some scheme yesterday, and different dialects of scheme, and I think it was in that context where I saw predicate function names that didn't begin is with lowercase, but ended with a question mark, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, is app service takes something and equals app service. There we go. So we defined a little function, an arrow, you know, what's it called? Arrow syntax, arrow function expression. That's what it's called. Helmut says, I like the TypeScript style of JavaScript. Now that's fighting talk, Helmut. Brilliant. But I also like the FP style. Brilliant. Okay, fine. So now we can say, and remember, we can destructure. It's sort of destructuring using the REST operator, destructure the services like that, right? With the REST operator, cds.serve, because if we did this, cds.services, we get that, but we can, you know, we can say cds.services filter is app service. And in fact, .map xx, oh, in fact, x.name, let's do that. There we go, right? In fact, we also had basic info. Basic info. There, look, basic info. Where's basic info? There. Let's just grab that and do that. Oops, hello. There we go. Const basic info, and then map basic info. Is that a beautiful thing? That's a beautiful thing. Okay, so let's stop messing about in the REPL and start to transfer our brain now to what we have here, which is our skeleton. Let's put it over here actually. Our skeleton, or as Nick Frost's character in Hot Fuzz would say, Skellington, CDS plugin.js, right? So let's do that. Let's do that. Over here, what I'll say is CDS watch, and we'll just have that running all the time to see what's going on. In fact, remember we had that debug equals loud. Let's turn on the debug to 11 for our loud plugin. So now we see the loud starting up there, which is from there, from the log.debug. Volker Buzek says, I like the missing semicolon. Yes, I also like to omit the semicolon. I like the way you sort of, again, fighting talk, it's missing, as in it should be there. Maybe it should be there, maybe it shouldn't, who knows. So, let's start by adding things, right? Just say log hello. Just make sure everything's sort of wired up and working. There we go, hello. What we should do is bring in from our REPL, what's the word? From our REPL session, that definition of basic info and that definition of is app service, because we're going to use those, and also our definition of what's it called, loud elements. In fact, did you know, as well as a bash history, which has got a history of all the stuff that you do in bash, you've also got a CDS REPL history file, a dot file, so it's hidden in your home directory. Is that big enough, by the way? Let me know if it's big enough. So Rudolph says, I prefer KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I do too, Rudolph. I can't do anything other than simple because my brain's too small. Volker, DJ, do you know a way of preventing the plugin to run when commands other than CDS watch or run are used? Oh, interesting. Interesting. Do you know any way of preventing the plugin running when commands other than CDS watch or run are used? For example, the plugin also executes when CDS add is run. Oh, interesting. Maybe, well, maybe we can sort of answer this by thinking about the life cycle events, which I think we're going to probably come to anyway, right? So, Volker, just hold that thought, and dive in again, shout again, because I think, sort of, rather than preventing something from happening, we can define it such that it only executes, the plugin code only executes when we want it to, rather than doesn't execute when we don't want to do, if that makes sense. In fact, let me illustrate. Oh, CDS REPL history. Let's show that there. There's all the stuff we did in the REPL. So in fact, look, where is it? Is app service, basic info, and is app service. Let's grab that. There, const. There we go. And then let's go and grab the loud info as well. Const loud info. There we go. There. Sorry, loud elements. That's what it is. Let's grab that and put it in there as well. Now, let's get out of here, start up the CDS watch again, right? Volker does a excellent. And now, actually, it was quite interesting to illustrate. If we said, for example, log.debug, log.debug, let's do it properly, log.debug, object.keys cds.services. What do you think we're going to get? What is going on? Right? Log.debug, just make sure this is our thing, right? Say keys like that, right? There. So that is definitely our debug output log record. But we get an empty array. Why do you think we get an empty? folks in the chat, put your answer in the chat. Why do you think, I've sort of given the game away really by talking about lifecycle events, but why do you think we're getting an empty array? I'm going to have a slurp of tea while the live stream catches up and you can hear what I'm saying, and put something in the chat. By the way, if you've missed the link at the start, let me go across to here and go back here actually to the series post and put it back in the chat. There. Oh, no, that's not the chat. That chat there. There's a series post. Anybody in the chat? Oh, that's me in the chat there, putting the URL in. I'm never sure how long it takes. Maybe about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Anyway, okay. People are probably busy just listening with one ear to this, or no ears, which is probably the best way to listen to this. The reason why we don't get anything is because at this point, the services don't really exist. The server hasn't properly fired up. Oh, Rudolph says, maybe services are not loaded yet in the lifecycle. Rudolph, you've got it in one. 1,000 points to Rudolph, exactly. So let me show you. Let's go to the capire. Do we use the definitive article? The definite article rather? The capire. Let's go to capire. Let's go to the capire. And life cycle, look at that, life cycle events, bootstrapping servers. So one I'm particularly interested in, and I've used this before, and I've also obviously seen my good friend from the CAP team, well, they're all my good friends, Daniel Schlachter, in that blog post when he first wrote about the CDS plugin concept, the served life cycle event. In fact, let's go to the top. Let's do that again. Lifecycle. Oh, lifecycle. Can we click on that thing there? Lifecycle events. No, maybe not. Server. Oh, there we go. There. Lifecycle events. DJ, pay attention. The following lifecycle events are emitted via the CDS facade object during the server bootstrapping process. You can register event handlers using CDS on, like so. Now, the served event, the serve-ing event emitted for each service constructed by CDS serve. Okay, almost. But event served, a one-time event emitted when all services have been bootstrapped and added to the Express.js app. Now, this might be, Volker, a roundabout answer, not maybe a direct answer, but a roundabout sort of answer to the dilemma that you present, very, very properly present, which is, plugins added, plugins firing when on CDS add, because CDS add, the CAP server is not going to start up, right? Well, I presume. We'll try it later. So that could be the answer. Chiara, buongiorno, welcome, nice to see you again. We're just talking about lifecycle events now. So we'll do this. CDS on served. Oh, services. Wow. Okay, that's really cool. So CDS on served. Let's do that. CDS on served. Well, first of all, let's just ignore that for now and do that, and then add that in there. Format, save. Volker, got it. Volker says got it. So use the same event hooks as in regular CapDev. Exactly. Basically, we're all eating from the same bowl of dog food. I'm not quite sure that metaphor works here, but yeah, exactly. As we hopefully illustrated nicely and firmly by Daniel in the Art and Science of CAP series. In fact, let me share that with you as well. Let's go to the blog and look for the blog post. Where is it? The Art and Science of CAP. Let me share that with you as well. Bang, there. Basically, everything is at our level, The CAP team are obviously building some sort of internal stuff as well, but for example, the database service is exposed to us, and we can sort of add handlers to the database service as well as we can adding handlers to our own application services. Anyway, let's not go there because I've only got 35 minutes to go. Oh my goodness me. So now all I did was move that line to be executed when, what's the phrase that's used here? When all services have been bootstrapped and added to the Express.js app, right? So that's that. And all of a sudden, before, up here somewhere, look, the log record appeared pretty much directly after our starting up record, before the model was even loaded from services.js, service.cds, right? But now, look, it's all the way down here. Where is it? All the way down here, which sort of makes sense because, as it says, when all services have been bootstrapped. And look, the messages before that, serving bookshop, boing, serving platonic forms, boing. And then we get the keys of our services. And in fact, does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody? Let me know in the chat if that makes sense. And in fact, look at this, cds.services, we even get for free, handed to us on a plate. Look at that, who knew? Services, look at that. Also, look at that hover, look at that hovering cap hire. Oh, amazing. cds.services. And then we can grab those things. So, right, so far so good. So I think we're in a good place. I think we're in a good place to start doing what we think we need to do. Let's move that across here a bit. In fact, let's get rid of that because we don't really need anything else. We've added the CSVs. We've modified the services because that is now with our new platonic forms. Get rid of that. And now we're just working on that. Okay, good. We can move that out of the way. Fine. Got plenty of space. So far so good. Let me know in the chat. Anybody else? No. Okay. Perfect. So what we can say is, actually, why don't we say this? All services. Right. Let's save that. Yeah. I'll say this once. I'll say it again. One of the most beautiful things is how tight this developer design time feedback loop is. You know. Press save, bang, service restarts, bang, really quick. And I see, yeah, okay, cool, it's still working. Because what we want to do is not even try and process any entities within this DB service, because it's not the right kind of service. It's a SQLite service, as we saw from the kind. So we can use this is-app service. Why don't we say here, all services.filter is-app service. There's one part of my brain saying, DJ, what are you doing? Is completely going off piste, as in what you wanted to show. But anyway, who cares? Let's do that. Oh, is-app services. Is-app service. Sorry, is-app service. There we go. See, boing. All services. Now, there we go. Look at that. That tells us something as well. All services.filter is not a function. Why is that? It's because, of course, we have to remember that what we get given is an iterable. Remember that linked definitions thing? Is it in here? Linked definitions. Boing. There, linked definitions. Read that. It's amazing. Chat, there we go. There, perfect. So what we'll do instead is we'll say, services, yeah, let's undo that. But then we'll say const my services equals services dot filter is app service. Try that, and then we'll say keys of my services. See what happens there. Okay, cool. Yes, of course, because we've now got, there we go. We'll just do this, right? Object.values. There we go. Where's that hole? We now have, look, an array. There's one, application service, bookshop. There's another, application service, platonic forms. Okay. So far so good. Are we all still are we all still together? That's good. Okay. So now, what do we want to do? We want to go through each of our application services, obviously that keys thing is wrong there, but anyway, keys, services, that's better, right, services, what we're doing, there we go, there, perfect. And start picking out the entities and start working toward looking at the entities with the elements, any elements with this annotation, this loud annotation, and doing something, right? And we've got half an hour left. I think we're okay. So why don't we do that? Let's go across to here and say, there's also, let me know in the chat, there's also another philosophical thing that's going around in my head right now. Should I define these things inside of our served handler or outside? I suppose, you know, it is only a philosophical thing. If I'm using these elsewhere, then obviously I want to define them outside. Actually, just to be neat, it just feels not as neat as possible. So I'll stick them in there, right? There. So we've got that. It's all nice and neat now. Services, there we go. So now, my services, let's just log something, right? So we know my services.length 2. Fine, cool. Okay, so in fact, why don't we say this, right? We'll say here, my services, right? For each, so we want to loop over, iterate over the services. Yeah, okay, and then we'll just log S for now. So we work, oops, log S. So we are now where we were before, but now we're sort of starting to think in terms of the right structure. Where is it? What's going on here? It's quite big, isn't it? There we go. Application service bookshop, and then application service platonic forms. Now, you all okay? By the way, you're all very quiet in the chat. Why don't we say here, instead of this, we'll say s.entities. Try that, right? Log s.entities. And remember as well, because from our REPL session, I don't want to sort of repeat it because I'm looking over here at my watch here, my clock, my phone, whatever the word is. So in the REPL last week, we also found that all these types of things, everything really, not everything, but generally everything related to the CDS model that's built up is presented to us, available to us in a series of linked definitions. And those linked definitions are all iterables. So we've got to remember that. And that's why we're sort of destructuring that iterable into an array. We're using the REST operator here. So let's run that, save that. I think basically when I've scrolled, yeah, that's what happens. When I scroll up, it sort of stops the scroll down. There we go, look. Look. Now we're talking. So we get the entities of the first service. In fact, why don't we do this as well, right? Service.name, comma, there. Let's try that, see what happens. Look, bookshop, there, bookshop. And then we get that value, which is that, which is the entities. Entity, kind, entity, elements, link definitions of ID, title, genre, stock, blah, 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 blah. So now we can start to think about, why don't we say, oh, thank you, Rudolph. All good, full focused, brilliant. Okay, so why don't we do this, right? Map loud elements. Oh, this is not going to, services dot map loud elements, s.map. Oh, yeah, of course. What I wanted to do rather is map loud elements. There. Now, thank you, Rudolph. Now, there's the first log record from the first service and the second log record from the second service. So that's it is for each thing here. And this is the output. What we're doing is we're going over the entities and calling loud elements on each of the entities, which will give us an object where we've got a name property, an entity property, and an elements property. There, look, name, entity, elements. Marianne Seiss, pretty new with cap and used ... return yesterday. It's easier, especially when doing. It is, Marianne. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. If you do one thing this weekend, apart from, of course, watch the replay and watch the blog post if I manage to get it out today, the write-up of this one, have a look at the MDN destructuring assignment. There, that blew my mind. I mean, I think we all know generally how to destructure at certain levels, but I think I did a post on what's it called, Blue Sky, where I did a nested destructuring, which then included the REST operator as well. In fact, B Sky, what's it called? B Sky, is that me? I don't even know where it is. There, look, that. Now that, let me share that, and also that. There. Hopefully that's going to be good reading for you. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, okay, those are good there. Okay, so we've got that. So we're now starting to bring back in again this whole idea of we want to process within our services the entities, but we only really want to process things where we've got an entity with some elements that are annotated with loud, i.e., let's put it there, make it one smaller, as in we only want to process this entity, really, because it's got a loud element, not this one though, and this one. So let's do that down there. That'll do. Right, is that okay? Yeah, cool. So why don't we say here, yeah, and that's the, let's have a structure, map loud elements dot filter, and filter only include those loud elements where we've got at least one entry in the array for the elements property, right? So basically there's no point in processing doing any further processing on this bookshop.things. So filter, we get something, x.elements.length. We're just going to use that as a sort of a predicate style thing, as in length of 0 is negative, is false, effectively falsy. So theoretically, log, oh no, what we'll do with that is we'll just say here then, map x log x. Is that going to work? There we go. Okay, so Rudolph Backer, great useful JS hacks. Thanks. You're welcome, Rudolph. You're welcome. So now we get that because we've actually, this thing here is still one of these objects here. But what we don't get is this one of these objects for the things entity, because the things entity, there were 0 elements. Remember up here, there were 0 elements listed as elements being annotated. So we've thrown that one away. But what we do have as well down here, because of course this platonic forms.colors entity has an element name that is also annotated with loud, right there. So that's why we get this one. So far so good. Okay. We're almost there, really, now. But this goes back, this next bit goes back to what we were talking about before when Volker brought up that question about CDS add and the plugin file. Oh, actually, let's just see what happens CDS add debug equals loud. Just give it a chance to actually kick in. Loud CDS add. It's going to add data in this directory called db again, which is fine. So let's do that. CDS data. There, see, Volker? We don't, yes, of course, we get this starting up message here because we're not checking for anything there. Bang, straight in. But none of this stuff, if I say here, for example, log hello, Volker, get well soon. Do that again. We don't get that. Okay, so I suppose that I was thinking, does that feel a bit of a roundabout way of answering your question? Let me know, Volker. Volker says root. Okay, now let's just go back to the CDS watch. And what do we want to do? What do we want to do? Let me get rid of that. Instead of obviously logging something out, we want to process, right? We want to process each entity that we get that falls through this map filter path. Log n. Let's just do one thing at a time, right? There we go. There's log n.name, maybe. Entity.name. Platonic bookshop books, platonic forms colors. Volker says woot. Ah, excellent. Yes, thank you, Marianne. Thank you. I just missed that before. Yes, there we go. Perfect. And yeah, so this goes back to that thing we were talking about, which is we're not going to use anything special to do what we want to do, which is to basically make loud, as in uppercase. This is a stupid plugin, right? Useless plugin, just an illustrative one. Uppercase the values of entities, of elements that are annotated with @loud. So in order to do that, one way of doing it would be to set up an extra handler, just to add another handler. So let's just do this saying, I don't know, setting up, this is your debug thing, isn't it? Debug, setting up a read handler for entity.name. So far, so good, right? Now, oops. Now, at what level is such a handler attached? It's attached, and we want to, it's a read handler, it's like for the after phase, and the after phase basically is a phase that is on the serving of something. We have the before, we have the on, and we have the after. So that gives us a clue that actually it's at the service level. Of course, we need to attach a handler to the after phase. And in fact, we've got, we're in the context here, in this sort of outer for each, we've got a reference to service.after. We're going to do service.after read for, what is it? This is going to be the entity name. Yes. So in fact, let's remind ourselves. Oh, we're here already. After request. Here we go. After request. After event read entity, right? And that signifies, that's optional, but we want to put the entity, right? So we'll have the entity in terms of the name, entity.name. And then what do we have to have? A handler. Oops, a handler. So we'll have here entity log.debug in read handler after phase for entity.name. Is that going to work? Okay, good. We don't get this output yet because we've not actually. Let's do one of these things here. There, down there. So now, of course, this is only going to get fired when we have a read on the thing. So let's curl localhost 4004. What is it? OData v. Let's go to platonic forms. Platonic, if I can spell it. Forms. Colors. Let's do a bit of JQ because JQ, right? Beautiful colors there, red, green, blue, and we then we get this thing here in read handler after phase for undefined entity. Entity.name. What's going on here? Entity. Entity there. Let's do that again. Anybody? There we go. Object. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. There we go. Can anybody tell me? What clue does that give us that I'm being an idiot? Put in the chat what that tells us, apart from the fact that DJ doesn't know what he's doing. So Vishal says, if we have two loud elements for instance in an entity, then the after handler would run twice, right? Two loud elements for an instance in an entity. You mean you're talking about an element in an entity? Then the after handler. Well, don't forget. Yes. Well, for each of the entities, right? We are setting up a read handler for the entity name. So it's really just at the entity level. So we filtered out any entities with no annotated elements. So at this point here, it's a great question, Vishal, great question. At this point here, we're at the level of granularity, right, of an entity. And we can sort of see that here as well by the fact that we're setting up a handler for the read event in the after phase for an entity. Okay, we haven't got yet, but actually this idiot DJ thing here gives us a massive clue. Of course, this is not, if I were to read the document to RTFM, right, what we get given is an array of objects, an array of things, as in we get the records, right? We get the records. And that's why, look, how many records are here? 1, 2, 3. In fact, if I were to do this, right, a stupid thing, platonic forms, let's add another one for orange. There, right? Save that. Now, if I were to do that again, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. These things here are the records. The records in the data that's been retrieved in the on phase that we get given as a handler for the after phase to do with as we please, right? So there we go. Okay, so that was a massive clue. So always be mindful of what this tells us, right? This looks rubbish, right? It's like, what is going on? It's completely wrong. But yes, it is completely wrong, but it tells us something. Right, anyway, so what do we call it? Records. Records. Actually, that's not going to happen. Let's just do that again, right? Same thing, records. But now, does that basically, did I answer your question, Vishal? If we have two loud elements, for instance, in an entity, then the after handler would run twice, right? It wouldn't. So we're going to hopefully get to that now. It wouldn't run twice because these handlers are at the entity level. But now we want to process each of the records. I think of records, these are the records, right? With 1 red, 2 blue, 3 green, 4 orange. And each of the records has different fields, or in CDS model terminology, different elements. The ID element and the name element. Where is it? There. There, ID and name, right? Let's get rid of that again. 850. Will we do it? Yes, I think we will. I think we will. Right. So, okay, let me know if that's okay. So, what we want to start processing, read handler for entity.name. That'll do. Right. Do that there. Do that there. Do that there. Yeah. In read handler phase 4%. So now, what do we want to do? We want to process. Let's call it R, right? Log.debug doing something with R. R. See what happens. Sounds good, says Rudolph. Thank you, Rudolph. Do that. Let's see what happens. Doing something with up. Now, you see, we get this for each loop. We get 4 records output because we've got the 4 colors now: red, orange, green, blue, and orange. No, sorry, red, green, blue, and I can't even speak. Red, green, blue, and orange. So what we want to do is we want to say, for example, right, for each R. Oh, in fact, what do we want to do? Elements. There we go. Let's just think about this for a second. Oh yeah, here we go. We want to process the entity dot. Let's just do this. Log entity dot elements, because remember, these are the elements. These are the list of elements that have been annotated. Let's just do that, right? Name. If we were to, for example, do this, platonic forms colors, we change that to, what's it called? Bookshop books. We should get genre, because it's genre that's been, what's it called? It's been annotated, right? So what we want to do here is we want to say, for each, can we do that? Yes, I think we can. Element log.debug processing element, right? Let's just one step at a time. Processing genre. Somebody's saying something. Volga, inline.js doc to the rescue. Yes, see, inline.js doc to the rescue, parameter element. Yeah, it's really good, So Rudolph says, what about using JS doc or TS with CS type thefts? Oh, that's a brilliant question. Maybe a question for another time. 8:50. Oh, okay, I'm panicking a little bit. I'll slow down a bit because I've got 7 minutes left. Yeah, CDS type definitions and TypeScript and everything. To be honest, I really would like to like TypeScript more, but I don't. I love the dynamic nature and the raw beauty and chaos in some corners of JavaScript, right? Anyway, so we now have each element, right? And then we'll say record of element. In fact, let's do that, right? Say log record of element. Let's see if we can get that. Oh, hello. Oh, there. Boing, boing. Science fiction, processing genre science fiction. And now if we do this, platonic forms, we're getting closer. I think plugin part 4 of 3 is coming. Marion, thank you for that. That's also very nice, if not intended, maybe it is intended, a very nice reference to, of course, Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you know, the subsequent parts were like part 4 of a 3-part series type thing. Helmut says, if you have bigger projects, you are lost without TypeScript. DJ, don't respond. Yes, Helmut, I love that. I do. Maybe we should have a session on TypeScript. So, but we're almost there. I can smell the end. All we need to do now is, we'll say here, let's just do it. Let's get rid of that, and in fact, come on DJ, R of element equals R element to upper, is it to uppercase? So at the moment we've got red, green, blue, orange. Yes. Let's just check that with the books. Science fiction, loud, uppercase. Now, it was sort of a bit of an anticlimax at the end, wasn't it? Let's just make sure, somebody said something. Chat getting active when TypeScript. Yes. Oh, here we go. I've missed loads. Raw beauty in the chaos. Top. Transistor. Thank you very much. If you have bigger picture, Rudolf Batker, JS docs in plain JS could help as well. It could. They could actually. I've not looked at JS docs for ages, but I should do. Marianne says, chat getting active when TypeScript is mentioned. It's a trigger. It's a trigger concept, isn't it? Yes, without TypeScript, we get a lot of undefined errors. Vishal, you're just stirring the pot, aren't you, Vishal? But yes, well done. Well said. Well said. So let's just summarize. We've got 8:56. We've got 4 minutes left. This is it. This is all we have needed to do to, let's get rid of that, to run the stuff at the right point in time. And also sort of as a side effect to Volker's point earlier, only run the stuff at the appropriate time. So when we do CDS add, we don't get this stuff. We've got this little helper function here so that we can only pick out, we only pick out from the services which get given to us in the lifecycle event handler. We only want to pick out our services, i.e. the services that are of kind app service. We've gone through this allowed elements thing last time, but basically this will go through and just return us an object, including a property that lists the @loud annotated elements. We grab our services using that is app service thing as a helper, as a predicate function to the filter. And we just go through them. We go through the services. This is I bet this is triggering helmet, isn't it? Any parameter s, any. Then we use the destruction with the rest operator to grab the entities. We map through them, producing this object for each of them, which includes this property which lists the loud elements. We throw away any where we don't have anything in the list of loud elements, and then we start processing this element thing. This pop-up thing is really annoying me. We start processing them for each n, setting up read handler, and that's it. So we have the entity. We set up a handler on the server for that entity, and that handler expects to receive the records after they've been retrieved. And then we process each of the records in turn. And this is done by a direct reference. This is not anything that's returned. Notice I'm not doing a map here. I'm doing a for each. So we're actually, modifying in place. Maybe we should do a part 5 of 3 for that, because it's quite interesting the way things work. And we just go loop through the elements. These things here, the things that have been annotated with loud, i.e. genre for the books entity and what is it called? Name for the colors entity. And we just do something with the element, with the value. And that's it. Because we're in the after handler, then we let go and things get served. There we go, 8:59. Wow, that was all right, I think, in terms of time. I'm not sure whether it helps or not, but yeah, let me know in the chat if that was okay. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for all the chat. I'm going to probably not do one next week. I'm going to see if Daniel wants to do any more of the art and science of CAP. Let me know in the chat whether you would like to see Daniel do more. Then I can sort of use that to persuade him. Although I don't think it's going to take much persuading because Daniel's awesome. Yeah, so have a great Friday. I'll post the write-up to this hopefully soon, maybe today. So you've got that for the weekend as well. And I'll see you, yeah, not next week, but maybe the week after. Bye for now.